The 6th of April, lorries visiting England from outside the UK for more than 2 days will need to take a COVID test. Drivers have to take a test within 48 hours of arrival and then one every 72 hours after that. Grant Shapps said this was to make sure that the UK can keep track of any future variants of the virus of concern. Let's talk to Elizabeth de Jong, Policy Director at Logistics UK, which represents the freight and logistics industry. Thanks for joining us. When France did this, when was that? Just in the end of December, it caused absolute chaos, didn't it? Are we going to experience something similar now, do you think?
Well, because of the lack of notice and the big issues that we had just before Christmas, when 100% of vehicles travelling to France had to be tested. We have infrastructure in place for testing. We have that nationwide at information and advice centres, which are around the main arteries to our ports. So those can be used again for the inbound testing. So we won't be seeing the scenes that we saw before Christmas, we're very happy to say. OK, so you welcome this, do you, as a way of preserving the UK's integrity when it comes to other variants coming in? Well, for us, whatever testing regime is in place and safeguards for good business practices for COVID, it's really important to us that it's proportionate to the risk. And our worst scenario would be quarantine for hauliers. We've been able to keep the country with all it needs during the crisis because there hasn't been quarantine for hauliers and other transport drivers coming in between borders. So it's really important to us that quarantine is not part of the answer. And we think, therefore, that this is an acceptable set of measures balancing the business impact and also the COVID risk.
I mean, a lot of people would say also that hauliers don't actually mix that much when they are travelling. I mean, they pick up stuff at the depot, might not speak to that many people there either, and they're in their cab and they stay in their cab, more or less.
Yes, so it's quite a solitary type of work in any case, but also during the COVID crisis, different working arrangements were put in place so that the drivers would be in the cab even more. And there was some guidance which has become mandatory as of the 6th of April. So therefore, if you are not in your cab, there is a fine of £1,000. So people will definitely be staying in their cabs. And it was about 0.1% of drivers who tested positive when the tests were in place at Dover going into France. So we do know that it's a low risk occupation, yes.
Now, of course, these are drivers outside, though, the UK, aren't they, and Northern Ireland, and the majority of those will be European drivers, presumably. And one wonders how many of those drivers will be coming through, bearing in mind we've got that huge cargo ship at the moment stuck in the middle of the Suez Canal.
Yes, so it's for anybody coming from continental Europe. So it will mainly be road transport drivers, but also aircrew and maritime will have a testing regime for them as well. All
right, OK. Elizabeth de Jong, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on BBC News.